I know that this might come as shocking to you, but did you know that almost half of all international medical graduates who sit for the MCCQE exams in Canada fail on their very first attempt? Yeah, it's not surprising, and you can feel overwhelmed and you can feel that the path is very daunting. But in this video, I'm going to share with you the strategy that I use while working a full-time job. I was able to register for the exams in October, start for the exams in February, and I passed the exams. And if you're wondering in terms of how you can schedule, how you can do your things in order to succeed, this video is right for you. But I'll encourage you to watch this other video on how I give you a proven blueprint on how to gain more than 250 plus in this MCCQE exam. So let's dive straight in. I remember the terror. I remember how hard it was when I started this initial program. There was core things or essentially steps that I took forward in order to prepare myself. So the first thing I want to tell you is that as you're preparing for this exam, study as if you're studying to know, not preparing for an exams. The moment you study in the name of just passing an exams, once you sit for that exams, it feels like the entire information gets wiped off your brain. You don't want that to happen to you. You should prepare for these exams as if you're gaining knowledge that you're going to use in your future life, in your future career, in helping your patients. That is a strategy, that is a mindset that you should have when you're preparing for these exams. What do I mean by this? I'm going to explain to you in just a fraction of a second. But before I do so, please hit subscribe. This information is going to be golden to you. It's free to you, and subscribing comes at no cost to you, but it tremendously helps the channel grow. And thank you so much for subscribing. We also have our communities. If you want to be a part of our communities, you can scan the QR codes that you see on your screen, and you join our Telegram group where I share very useful resources and tips, and the rest of my team are always there to answer your questions. We're really supportive when there'll be peak times for you to take your QE1, to take your NAC OSCE exams, and for you to take your Casper FM Pro exams. And during the CARMs, where we'll have separate dedicated videos for those. And also, as a bonus point, our website is soon coming up where you can book an appointment to have a chat with us to review your documents for whatsoever need you might need them to help you for coaching, for classes, particularly during the CARMs period where we'll be able to support you live one-on-one. And that is a very exciting news that we're going to have from next month. So please stay tuned. If you want to know exactly the resources, I share with you my timetable, my schedule on how when I was working and prepping for this QE1, the way I work, the subject that I did, the step-by-step process in which I use to ace and have superior performance in these exams. You can join our membership and we'll be able to share all that information with you. So when I sat in for the MCCQE exams, it was October of 2024. I was currently working a full-time job. I was in charge and leading a team. So I was juggling between my full-time position where we run essentially clinical trials all across Canada, prepping for this exam full-time and taking care of my family at the same time. So it wasn't easy, but I had put an objective, I had fixed a goal. And what I'll try to tell you is that number one, try as much as possible to put in your mind that you're studying to know and not to pass on exams. Once you're studying to know, that pressure is eased off from the exams, but you're very focused. You're trying to push the information to your long-term memory. You remember we had the long-term and the short-term memory. What you want to do is push this information to be sitting in your long-term memory, so much so that once you finish all of this and you even later on get into residency, that information is still going to help you. It's going to be retrievable and it's going to be very vital for you to integrate into the system. So study as if you're studying to know and not studying to pass an exam. So that's the first thing I had in my mind. Number two, learn how to learn. Learn how to learn. Study how to study. I break this in detail in my membership videos where I show the proven strategy based on research and dozens of case studies where people learned how to learn and then they became really apt at understanding information quickly. There is that little strategy where you can push information quickly from your short-term memory into your long-term memory, but you have to learn how to learn, and it varies individually. Everyone have to study themselves and know exactly what works for them, and then they would understand. Once you learn how to learn, then once you begin to study for your exams, you are actually just studying. and that information will go and directly be transmitted into your long-term memory. And again, number 3, find yourself great study partners. Once a website will come, you'll be able to book and try to find people who match you based on filtration. And then you can see if they're a fit for you and you can create a study group. So find yourself a study partner, read and understand to someone. The best way to ever know that you've understood something is trying to explain back to someone what you have studied. It's a very challenging. It's like teaching a mini class. It can be very hard and daunting because you push your brain to think, you push your brain to reproduce that information that you spend perhaps, the whole night studying. What I did was I would daily get up in the morning. I started my morning prayers, getting up at say 4 o'clock, depending on how the day or how I felt. But that biological clock, once you've done everything well, your biological clock sets in and you don't even need an alarm to be able to get up. Once you have that self-consciousness that you have in exams. So get up at 4, study till 6:30 in the morning, meditate, pray with your family, prep yourself, do exercises, get a shower, eat breakfast, and then set up by the road by 8 o'clock to work. And then by 8:30, 9 o'clock, you're at the office. You're fully committed into the office. So there are apps that I use to block social media on my phone. Again, I can share all this information with you, but there are proven apps that are really helpful that can block your phone and stop you from this distraction that we all have during the day. So that stops that distraction. You're able to focus, put in all the energy that you have, and you work till 4 p.m. 4 p.m., you're back at home. And then from 4 to 5, you can definitely take a quick nap, or you freshen up, you eat, you relax a little bit with your family, and then you start with your study groups with your partners. You study at that time from 5 to about 9 p.m. in the evening, or about 8 p.m. in the evening, and then you have dinner from 8 to 9 with your family. You do your prayers, you sleep from 9, and you do to 3 or to 4 again, and you do the same thing round the clock. That becomes your new habit. You discipline yourself, you put away distraction, games, everything that can be daunting to you. You communicate with your family, tell them the importance of what you're doing. It is very doable, you can do it. However, I've seen people who have taken even up to a year, but are still not able to have an excellent score. So you need to take this as seriously and as importantly as much as you can, and you'll definitely make it, and you'll be worth it. And you know the importance of me saying this because there is a thing that we call recency, and the more time you spend out of practice, the harder it is for you to get into the system, to get into training. So you don't want to be out of practice. Say you move in Canada within 2 years, you want to have cleared all your exams and you're applying for the match. You want to be at that level. So you need speed. Time is of essence. Time is important in this particular scenario. I know sometimes the pressure can be insane, but please, the essential thing is for you to know that you have an objective that you must meet within a specific time. So break your objective into little chunks that are measurable and put a value to those. Say in the next 2 weeks, I'm supposed to have read 3 pages of this topic and I'm supposed to have understood this, and I can explain this to someone in 5 minutes, summarizing and going straight to the point. You want to be as thorough and as straight to the point as much as possible. The more you can do that, the better you're training your memory to understand, to remember things, and for that information to sit on your long-term memory. This is really important. I was juggling between, full-time job, family commitment, and figuring out this whole Canadian healthcare system thing. It was hard. I was like, what should I focus on? What should I stick to? What should I do? It was hard. So I'll tell you some of the resources that I use, because resources are really important. The kind of material I use to prep for these exams is important. I know everywhere online, everyone is saying Toronto notes. To be honest, I read Toronto notes, I can say maybe 10 pages in total. And I mostly read ethics and a little bit of emergency medicine. But I was not a big fan of Toronto notes or any other fancy big textbook for that matter. I was more like a problem, challenges, approach kind of person. What do I mean by this? I made sure that I tried to understand certain things, and I made sure that my base was solid by not just looking at these textbooks, because if you say you're reading a textbook, you just read it back to back, it doesn't help you at all. By the time you're on page number 50, I can guarantee you more than 95% of what you study by just reading is already gone. I mean, from when you're on page 50. So reading a textbook, say Toronto Notes, as I hear people doing, is not a way forward. Is it a good resource? Absolutely. Is it what you should just be reading? Absolutely not. I use Ace Q Bank as my number one Q Bank. There are lots of other Q banks that are coming on, and we'll be able to see that on this platform, and we'll be able to provide you with access to these resources for a specific time being for free, and you would use it yourself. So please stay tuned, and you want to hit subscribe. So I use the Ace Q Bank, and this was my number one resource really in terms of like the best question bank that was very similar to the exam. But prior to that, I had done a little bit the USMLE Step 2 Q Bank with friends, a little bit just for knowledge sake, but it's not very close to the exams as you would expect. Other Q banks, not very vital, not very important for me, and this is my personal opinion. I'm not discouraging anyone, but you can use other Q banks. There's lots of others, and MCCQE actually have their own Q bank, but I didn't find those personally useful for me in terms of passing this examination. But it could be very useful for you, especially the MCCQE Q bank can be helpful in terms of timing yourself and knowing exactly how that feels during the exam. But I would say the weight that is given to those Q banks is not exactly what you get on the real exams. So I developed studies to study effectively that are still my best ways and that are highly effective, and that I think that all IMGs could adopt. And again, it's just by saying what I said before, learn to learn first. So Toronto Note was helpful for me. It helped me put up my clinical knowledge in terms of reference when I didn't know exactly what kind of management in Canada we're supposed to use as per guideline. Toronto Note was that resource that I went there, especially when you had to look at things like screenings, like how do we screen for colon cancer at what particular age, how do we do the pap smell, or what particular age do we do it, and for how long do we do it, how do we do the mammography, when do we start it, when do we stop. So all these values or time frames are different for different countries, and so Toronto Notes will be the resource for you to use. And you can also go to the CMPA website and you do all the accreditation or certification courses on those websites. They'll give you all this information in detail, and I highly recommend that. Some people use other resources like the 300 ethics questions. I think those were very useful and important. I didn't particularly use it. I just read Toronto Note, the ethics section of it, but you could still use that. I hear a lot of people say it's a useful resource. I haven't gone through a lot of questions myself, but the few that I went through on that resource, I found them really important or closer to the exams. Other people use Ambos, but I'm not a big fan as well either. I'll just tell you exactly my strategy and what I thought worked for me. So one of the strategies that I think finally and really works is, the first thing is that I focus on high yield content, because let's be real, you don't need to know everything to be able to pass this exam, and it's impossible for you to first of all know everything. So focusing on the high yield topics was really, really important. And the high yield topics, of course, everyone always tell you, there's psychiatry, gynecology, there's ethics. I would rather say the high yield topics would be ethics, would be psychiatry, obstetrics and gynecology, pediatrics, emergency medicine, drugs or toxicology, withdrawal and side effects and all those things. And then, you have your general medicine where you have a few questions here and then cardiology, thyroid, hospitology, and gastroenterology, and then every other systems are usually there. But again, I like to see focus on the 5 initial high yield topics as I mentioned. You want to look at your ethics, you want to look at your psych, you want to look at your obstetric and gynecology, emergency medicine, family medicine, peds, and then every other thing can come in any order. So focus on these high yield topics. They'll be very important. Toxicology, really important, like drugs, withdrawal, and all these things are really important. So you want to focus on those as well, because you can't really remember everything, right? And you want to study smart and not hard. So I definitely created my daily schedule, just as I explained earlier, and then I followed that daily schedule. But the reasoning behind time and the reasoning behind everything is that I wanted to cover all the resources as much as possible and finish in time. So when I was studying with friends all this time, I would definitely be trying practice tests at the end of my free time. I'll try to get, a lot of you be like, what free time again did you have? Yeah, you always have to create that time. When I was driving to my office, I'll be listening to Board and Beyond videos in my car, or just be listening to it instant information, somehow information gets into your head. You want to be swimming, you want to be completely immersed in trying to gather information, force it into your brain, let your brain know that, hey, you can't think about any other thing, brain. I want you to think about medicine. I want you to think about this information. I want you to know this thing. And then at the end of the day, your brain is like, all right, I get it. I'm going to try to understand it. And it sinks it and it keeps it in your long-term memory. And then you use practice tests. There is a free resource that you will soon have on our website where you'll be able to go there and do these practice tests. It's a lot of questions. There's about, 4,000 to 5,000 questions, and they are very, very close to the exams. I would really encourage you to take some time to study those questions and to get to know them. It's going to help you a lot. And so I did this practice test on time mode, and that is how I started getting closer and closer to about, a 60-70% mark to an 80%. And you want to be able to take these exams when your test on a time mode on your ACE-Q bank is about 70-75%. Then you know that definitely you're going to pass. Once you're at that level, please don't waste your time. Sit for the exams and you're going to make it. So that is how I practice. And once I started hitting that 75% or consistently, I knew I was ready for the exams, and I took my exams in February and I passed the exams. So 1 week before the exams, everything clicked. My scores in the practice tests were shooting, and I finally felt as if I was in control. I felt like, I think I have a glimpse of these exams, and I think I know exactly what is going on, and I was confident enough. So I stopped second guessing myself, and I started trusting the preparation that I had done. And that's when I knew I was ready. And guess what? When I sat for the actual exams, I wasn't just answering questions because I had prepped or had studied to answer questions. I was just applying the knowledge that I had studied and gained and kept at the back of my mind and forced my brain to put in my long-term memory. And that's why if you still bring the exams now, I'm very confident. I'm not sure how much I can get on the exams, but I'm very sure and positive that I'm gonna not fail the exams because I had studied to know and not study to pass the exams. So please try as much as possible to study to know. Learn how to learn first before you engage in anything. Even if it's going to take you 2 weeks, learn how to learn. Look for what works for you. Ask yourself this deep question: what is the best strategy? Remember that topic that you understood very well. Ask yourself the question: how did I study this topic to know it so well? What was the strategy? Was it practice? Was it reading? Did someone explain to me? What was it that I did that I have this great understanding of this particular subject matter? And try as much as possible to make it an application of all the other subject matters that you know into that particular format. If it was by listening to a lecture, make sure then that you pay for lessons and go to paid lessons. If it was by sitting down and studying, make sure you make room for sitting down and studying. If it was someone explaining to you, make sure you look for someone who likes teaching, who likes explaining, and let them teach you stuff and you would master it. Pay a tutor or go for classes then. We will soon have some paid tuition sessions, but those will come really later way down the line toward the end of this year. But we want to help you as much as possible and free because we know how hard, how challenging it is for IMGs. So please make sure you apply these hidden strategies that I've just shared in this video. Okay, so now I want to hear from you. What are your biggest struggles? What are your biggest challenges that you face in terms of landing the MCCQE Part 1 exams or even the USMLE exams? What are your biggest challenges? What are the things that you feel like it's really overwhelming, you're unable to understand? I'm not asking you to tell me about a topic that you're facing challenges in understanding. I'm asking you to tell me why you're unable to understand that particular topic. Why it is very difficult for you to be hitting the milestone and the target that you are not hitting. Let's think about why. Let's think about where we are, what obstacles, what is it? And then from there, we can propose a clear solution. Drop a comment below and let's talk about the strategies to help you move forward. So again, if you've liked this video and the content has been helpful for you, don't forget to hit subscribe, like and share this video, and a lot more fun things are coming in the future, all right? If you've loved it, then peace.